Remember when WNBA players were openly talking about walking out, demanding 30% of total league revenue, and confidently claiming they had alternative leagues and backup plans ready to go? That entire strategy has now started to fall apart in real time. The very league they were counting on for leverage, Unrivaled, has just seen almost half of its audience vanish in a single year. And now, the same players who once threatened a strike are reportedly reconsidering their position. The WNBA owners didn't panic. They waited, and they called the bluff. But here's where things get even more wild. The players at the center of those threats, Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, are also the architects of the struggling league itself. They are the co-founders of Unrivaled, with Stewart leading Mist BC and Collier representing Lunar Owls BC. Incredibly, they're about to face each other head-to-head within minutes. Credit to fans for embracing the idea early, but what we're witnessing now is a perfect storm of strategic missteps. In this video, we're breaking down how the power dynamic in women's basketball shifted almost overnight, and why the real danger isn't what most people think. Stay with us. This story is far more layered than it appears. Now let's talk about what just happened to Unrivaled, because these numbers are brutal. There's no soft way to put it. Paige Bueckers hits the smooth fadeaway, and it's exactly why she's special. She makes the right reads just like Kelsey Plum does when the moment calls for it. Last season, Unrivaled's opening night attracted roughly 312,000 viewers across TNT and True TV. For a brand new women's basketball league launching in the off-season, that was respectable. Curiosity was high. Fans tuned in. There was real buzz around what Stewart and Collier were building. Fast forward to this year, and the opening day games averaged just 175,000 viewers. And unfortunately, it gets worse. Games that aired exclusively on True TV averaged a dismal 32,000 viewers. Meanwhile, the WNBA tournament aired on new television partners and became the most watched in league history, averaging 1.3 million viewers per game. To put that into perspective, I've had YouTube videos pull more views than that. This isn't a slight downturn. It's a free fall that nobody in women's basketball wanted to see. Last season, Unrivaled averaged 221,000 viewers across its regular season on TNT, with the championship game peaking at 385,000 viewers. The one-on-one tournament featuring Nafisa Collier and Aaliyah Edwards drew 377,000 viewers. Those were supposed to be the building blocks. Those were the moments meant to fuel long-term growth. Instead, games on January 9th averaged just 139,000 viewers, while January 10th and 11th pulled only 71,000 viewers on True TV. The audience didn't simply decline, it evaporated. What's interesting is that Unrivaled CEO Alex Bazell responded by saying the league is focused on the long-term vision. He used the familiar line that leagues aren't built overnight. That explanation always feels hollow. Leagues also aren't built by losing nearly half their audience in year 2. That isn't growth, that's collapse happening in slow motion. Naturally, Unrivaled is trying to spin the situation. This week, they announced they're projecting $40 million in revenue, up 48% from last year. They highlighted merchandise sales rising 54%. Meanwhile, the WNBA capitalized on its surge in popularity by securing a media rights deal worth over $2 billion. Social media impressions are up 27%, and their January 30th Philadelphia tour stop sold out a 17,000-seat arena. And to be fair, strong merchandise sales are impressive. But here's the uncomfortable reality no one wants to admit. None of it matters if the television audience isn't there. TV deals pay the bills. TV ratings determine leverage in CBA negotiations. Television revenue is the backbone of the entire business model. Unrivaled's deal with TNT is reportedly worth 9 figures. But there's a catch, an opt-out clause after 3 years. If ratings don't rebound quickly, TNT can walk away. You can sell jerseys all day, but if your broadcast partner leaves, you're in serious trouble. Some will argue Unrivaled faced stiff competition from the NFL playoffs and the college football playoff, and that's true. But here's what's being ignored. Everyone knew that competition was coming. The league chose to launch during that window anyway. Even factoring in external competition, losing nearly half your audience in year 2 is catastrophic for any business. There's no spin that makes those numbers look healthy. And here's the part nobody in women's basketball wants to say out loud. Unrivaled's ratings collapse has nothing to do with scheduling, marketing, or football competition. It comes down to one harsh reality the industry has been avoiding for years. Look at who isn't on the floor this season. Caitlin Clark isn't there. Aya Wilson isn't there. Angel Reese sat out due to injury concerns. And that absence changed everything. Sabrina Ionescu chose to sit out entirely. That makes 4 of the biggest stars in women's basketball. The headline names, the faces that drove non-stop coverage. The very players who turned the 2024 WNBA season into a cultural moment. Every single one of them skipped Unrivaled's second season. And the moment they disappeared, the audience disappeared with them. This isn't speculation or personal opinion. The data spells it out with ruthless clarity. When Caitlin Clark plays, viewers show up. When she doesn't, they don't. It really is that simple. I haven't seen Caitlin Clark going around after beating UCLA telling people to get your money or secure a bag. She was clearly quoting someone else, and maybe I'm wrong, but Unrivaled just demonstrated this reality in the most painful way possible. The consequences for women's basketball are massive. Right now, the audience isn't tuning in for the league itself. Not yet. They're tuning in for specific stars, distinct personalities, and compelling storylines. Take those names off the court, and you're left with 32,000 viewers on True TV wondering where all the hype went. Breanna Stewart, one of Unrivaled's co-founders, essentially acknowledged this after a game last week. She admitted that television ratings are a critical measure of success and said the league wants strong numbers no matter when games are broadcast. But here's the uncomfortable truth she didn't say out loud. Wanting ratings doesn't make them magically appear. You need star power on the floor. And this season, the stars opted out. That creates an extremely awkward situation for the Players Union because Nafisa Collier told ESPN outright that leagues like Unrivaled exist to give players leverage, to pressure the WNBA into paying them what they deserve. She didn't dance around it. Unrivaled was built specifically as negotiating leverage. But leverage only works if it's credible. Your backup option has to be strong enough to scare the people across the table. And right now, Unrivaled is drawing 32,000 viewers on True TV while its co-founders, who also happen to be union vice presidents, watch that leverage dissolve in real time. That's not power. That's a liability wrapped in embarrassment. WNBA owners aren't worried about Unrivaled anymore. They're looking at the ratings and realizing they control the entire board. The players based their negotiating strategy on having alternatives. The problem is those alternatives only matter when the stars participate. And this season, they didn't. Now let's talk about the CBA standoff. 6 days ago, the WNBA collective bargaining agreement officially expired. The players declined to extend it because they believed they held the upper hand. They thought they could push for 30% of gross revenue, confident that if talks collapsed, Unrivaled would be there as a safety net. Meanwhile, WNBA players just secured a landmark agreement that would increase paychecks by roughly 53%. And then Unrivaled posted ratings so low they'd make a high school gym look packed. The owners aren't panicking, they're laughing. Why would they cave to demands when the players' only alternative is bleeding viewers? One player even tried to explain the situation with a food analogy, comparing negotiations to choosing between Applebee's and Chipotle. But she missed the point entirely. When you're starving and the other restaurant just closed, you eat what's available. The WNBA understands this, and the players are starting to realize it too. Let me be clear about one thing. I do believe WNBA players deserve more money. The league just had its most successful season ever. Viewership surged. Attendance exploded. The new media deal is reportedly worth around $2 billion. The players helped build that success, and they should benefit from it. But there's a huge difference between deserving something and having the leverage to demand it. Right now, the players have none. They played chicken with the league, and the league didn't blink. So what's actually on the table? Because people seem to have lost perspective. The current league proposal would raise the maximum salary from $249,000 to over $1.3 million. That's more than a 5-fold increase. The average salary would jump from $120,000 to over $530,000. The minimum salary would rise from $67,000 to roughly $250,000. And when you remember that a WNBA season lasts about 4 months, earning $250,000 minimum for that time frame is exceptional compensation by any standard. That's not disrespect. That's the largest pay increase in the history of women's sports, and the players still rejected it. Instead, they're demanding 30% of gross revenue, which would push the salary cap to roughly $10.5 million. An undeniably historic shift. The league, however, is offering 70% of net revenue, which translates to a cap closer to $5 million. According to league estimates, accepting the players' proposal would cost the WNBA roughly $700 million over the life of the deal. And yes, the gross versus net debate matters. Players have legitimate concerns about transparency and hidden expenses. But here's the reality no one seems willing to say out loud. The WNBA reportedly lost between $40 and $50 million in 2024, and that was during the height of the Caitlin Clark surge that brought unprecedented attention to the league. This is a league that has operated at a loss for nearly 3 decades. The new television deal is a major boost, no question, but it does not suddenly flip the league into profitability. So when players demand 30% of gross revenue, what they are effectively saying is, pay us first before any expenses are covered. The league's response is simple. That model isn't sustainable. At some point, someone has to blink. And with unrivaled unraveling in real time, that burden is increasingly falling on the players. So where does that leave the current CBA negotiations? Frankly, in total disarray. The deadline passed more than a week ago after 2 previous extensions, one at the end of October and another at the end of November. This time, there was no extension. Both sides allowed the agreement to expire and dug in. The league is now operating under a so-called status quo, with a moratorium placed on all league business. Free agency is frozen. Expansion drafts for Toronto and Portland have been postponed indefinitely. Nearly 80% of the league's players are free agents, yet none can sign contracts because the salary cap remains undefined. And don't forget the strike authorization vote from December. 98% of players voted in favor. That vote is still active. The 7-member executive committee has the power to call a strike at any moment. But here's the real question players need to ask themselves. Is now actually the time to strike? Their backup league is collapsing in public. The WNBA is offering salaries 5 times higher than current levels. And if players walk out now, they may unintentionally prove that the league can survive without them. The Players Association released a statement accusing the league of negotiating in bad faith and intentionally running out the clock. But after seeing unrivaled ratings collapse, it's possible the league simply waited for the players' leverage to disappear. And now it has. Here's the twist that changes everything. While Unrivaled is falling apart, another league is quietly positioning itself in the background. It's called Project B, and it just announced its first official stop. Tokyo, Japan, scheduled for March 26th through April 4th, 2027. Project B is planning a Formula One-style global circuit, featuring 7 tournaments across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The league is set to run from November 2026 through April 2027, directly during the WNBA offseason. And here's the bombshell. They're offering players contracts exceeding $2 million per year, along with equity in the league. Even more shocking is who has already committed. Nneka Ogwumike, the president of the WNBA Players Association, has signed on. So have Alyssa Thomas, Jonquil Jones, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and others. 10 WNBA players in total, some of the biggest names in the sport, have already joined Project B. Let that sink in. The president of the union currently negotiating with the WNBA has signed with a competing league. The irony is impossible to ignore. What makes Project B particularly intriguing and potentially dangerous is timing. For now, their schedule doesn't overlap with the WNBA season. They're positioning themselves as an off-season option, much like Unrivaled attempted. But the WNBA has openly discussed expanding to a 50-game season and potentially starting earlier in the calendar year. If those timelines begin to overlap, players will be forced to make hard decisions about where their priorities and loyalties lie. And there's another layer to this story. Project B is partially funded by Saudi-backed investment through a company called Sela. They've made it clear they're open to becoming direct competition with the WNBA if the opportunity arises. So while Unrivaled collapses loudly, Project B is quietly assembling its foundation. The big question is whether they can actually deliver on those $2 million promises, or if they'll become just another league that overpromises and underdelivers. So what happens next? Where does this all lead? Realistically, the players are likely going to have to accept something very close to the league's current offer. Not because they don't deserve more money, they absolutely do, but because they no longer have leverage. Unrivaled just confirmed that women's basketball without the right stars struggles to draw an audience. Project B is still years away and entirely unproven, with funding sources that make many uneasy. The WNBA, for all its flaws, remains the only stable option. It's been around for 30 years, it's backed by the NBA, and it isn't going anywhere. Breanna Stewart recently described negotiations as being in a holding pattern. Nafisa Collier said nothing has changed at the league level, but something has changed. Their leverage vanished on national television. The smartest path forward, even if it's uncomfortable, is clear. Take the deal. Accept the 5-fold salary increases. Secure the $1 million max contracts. Build from there. Prove the league can grow even further. Then return to the table in the next CBA with real power. The alternative is equally obvious and far riskier. Continue pushing for 30% of gross revenue. Possibly strike. Watch the league replace players with younger talent eager to earn a $250,000 minimum. Watch new fans lose interest and drift away. I've said this before, and it's worth repeating. WNBA players deserve more money. The growth is real. Caitlin Clark brought attention to this league on a scale it has never seen. The players helped create that moment. But business doesn't operate on what's deserved. It operates on leverage. And right now, the players don't have it. As the league reaches a defining crossroads, the future of women's basketball hangs in the balance. Will players lock in historic gains and build something sustainable, or risk everything chasing an uncertain outcome? The decisions made now will echo for years. The power dynamics are shifting, and this story is far from over.